Hi, welcome to Reading and Reflection. I'm Dr. Bruce L. Thiessen, clinical psychologist. Some of you might know me for my songwriting as Dr. BLT. Those are my initials. I am a psychologist, a singer, songwriter of thousands of songs, and an author. And today we're going to start something called Reading and Reflection, which is just designed to kind of whet your appetite for different psychological and philosophical resources. This particular book is by Ruth Snowden. It's called Freud, The Key Ideas. And we're going to talk about Freud because I think he's easily dismissed in our culture of political correctness. There are definitely some things that he was kind of hung up on, which are rightfully dismissed. But he also was a brilliant pioneer, and I think we need to revive some of his ideas, or at least open them up for debate. So I'm going to just start the reading and reflection with this introduction. Now, some of these reading and reflection segments will be followed up with original music that corresponds to the topic, but in this case, we're just going to kind of get started, just whet your appetite a little bit. So this is the introduction. Sigmund Freud was a doctor who lived and worked for most of his life in Vienna, Australia. He lived from 1856 to 1939, and he is famous because he founded a new system of psychology that he called psychoanalysis. This is commonly practiced today, but not as commonly as it once was. Most people have turned to cognitive behavioral approaches to psychology, which is not really psychoanalysis. So here's a key idea. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Psychiatry is the study and treatment of mental illness. Psychoanalysis is the system of psychology and method of treating mental disorders originally developed by Freud. And the words all share the same root in the Greek word psyche, which means breath, life, or soul. Now, this is one of the problems that I have with cognitive behavioral psychology, although I use some of its methods in working with my patients. But the cognitive behavioral approach tends to suck the soul or the life out of psychotherapy, and it does so by sort of approaching individuals as computers, where you can just go in and have them switch out the software, take out those negative thoughts and replace them. Well, human beings are much more complicated than that, so they don't always respond. They might respond on a superficial level, but find themselves haunted by the return of the very habits they're trying to be relinquished from. So before Freud, psychologists usually just described and observed behavior. Freud wanted to go deeper, to analyze and explain it, and this is why I find his work so fascinating, the author says. Gradually, he put together existing ideas with findings from his own studies to create a new system of understanding human behavior that he called psychoanalysis. He also applied his psychoanalytic theories to his own medical practice in treating mental disorders. Freud's methods were not necessarily successful in healing disturbed people, and most of his theories have since been disproved. I'm not sure they've actually been disproved. They might have been questioned, but it's very difficult to disprove his methods. But psychoanalysis has survived and evolved and is still the basis of various therapies used today in the treatment of neurosis and psychosis. And I would like to add that Freud continues to have a profound influence on critical analysis of art and music and things of a creative nature. So art criticism is almost entirely based on the theories of Sigmund Freud and his student Carl Jung. Even in today, even today, Freud continues to have predominant influence. Here's another key idea. One of the ways in which neurosis and psychosis differ is in their severity. A neurosis is a minor nervous or mental disorder. A psychosis is more severe and potentially disabling mental disorder. Well, that's as far as we're going to go in terms of Freud. I want to get into more of a discussion of his views on the unconscious next time, but hopefully this is enough to just kind of whet your appetite. And I want to kind of ask you, how relevant do you feel Freud's ideas are? I don't know how familiar you are with Sigmund Freud, but do you think he's still relevant? And if so, do you think he's relevant in the field of psychoanalysis and psychotherapy? And what ideas that you know of do you think are beneficial, and which ones do you tend to dismiss as being irrelevant or absurd or negative? So let me know in the comments section. And if you feel the Dr. BL Tribe vibe, then hit subscribe. I'm Dr. Bruce L. Thiessen, licensed clinical psychologist, aka Dr. BLT. Thank you for tuning into this first edition of Reading and Reflection.